Beneath Naples, the ground is breaking open and rising higher every month. Scientists just found new fractures forming where none existed before. For 500,000 people, it is not a question of whether they could escape a supervolcano. There is nowhere to run, and seismic activity is accelerating. AI has uncovered invisible fault lines linking together, as if the Earth is assembling its own doomsday clock beneath Europe's densest cityscape. The signs are unmistakable, but the true danger has not even begun to surface. So how much time do we really have before the cracks become a catastrophe? In a quiet lab at Stanford, a team of geophysicists watched as their computers churned through thousands of seismic records from beneath the streets of Naples. For decades, scientists tracked Campi Flegrei's tremors by hand, logging the obvious shakes and dismissing the rest as background noise. But in 2022, everything changed. Using machine learning, researchers trained an artificial intelligence system on years of Italian seismic data, then set it loose on the caldera's restless underground. The results stunned even the experts. Where traditional methods had mapped just over 12,000 earthquakes, the AI catalogued more than 54,000 distinct seismic events between 2022 and mid-2025. Patterns began to emerge from what once looked like chaos. The AI revealed that most earthquakes were not scattered at random. Instead, they were aligning along a hidden geometry. Faults that traced a ring around the uplift zone and a set of sharp, planar fractures slicing near Pozzuoli. These were not old scars, but new cracks opening in the earth, some less than 4 kilometers deep. The data showed a system that was not just shaking, but organizing itself. Events that once seemed isolated now clustered along these newly identified faults, as if the ground was responding to invisible lines of stress. The lead scientist on the project, working with Italy's National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology, described the caldera's seismicity as a living map of underground pressure. Each microquake, some too faint for humans to notice, added a pixel to the picture. The AI's detection power quadrupled the number of known events, exposing a network of fractures that had gone undetected for years. One fault, in particular, ran directly beneath the city's most densely populated neighborhoods. Another traced the ancient rim of the caldera, matching the surface outline mapped by geologists. By the summer of 2025, the seismic catalog had become a real-time warning system. Shallow quakes, less than 1 kilometer deep, clustered near the Academia lava dome. Deeper tremors, tectonic in origin, hinted at shifting stresses that could trigger something larger. For the first time, scientists could see the cracks forming as they happened, not just as afterthoughts, but as a living, evolving threat beneath 500,000 people. The ground was no longer just rising. It was cracking open with purpose, and the AI was the first to witness the pattern. Beneath the streets of Pozzuoli, the ground is on the move. Since 2005, measurements show it has lifted more than 1 meter, sometimes rising by several centimeters in a single year. This slow, relentless swelling is called bradyseism. To the untrained eye, the city looks unchanged, but the change is everywhere. Doors that no longer close, cracks zigzagging across kitchen tiles, steps that now slope at odd angles. For many, the first sign is a floor that tilts overnight. The phenomenon is not new. Ancient Roman columns at the Temple of Serapis, just above the harbor, are banded with scars where mollusks once bored into the stone. These rings mark the centuries when the land sank below sea level, then rose again, lifting the columns out of the water. Archaeologists read these lines like a diary, each one a record of the ground's breathing, sinking, rising, pausing, then moving again. But what is happening now is different. In the past, bradyseism followed a cycle. The land would rise, then settle back down. Today, the uplift is continuous and accelerating. There has been no reversal in more than 2 decades. GPS sensors anchored in the city's bedrock send data every second to the INGV observatory in Naples, where teams of scientists watch the numbers climb. The observatory director describes the ground as alive, a restless surface stretched tight by forces deep underground. This is not just a scientific curiosity. For the families living atop the caldera, the rising ground is a daily fact of life. Some have seen their homes lifted more than 1 meter since their children were born. Insurance claims pile up for cracked walls and broken pipes. In the harbour, fishermen recall when the waterline dropped so quickly that boats were stranded, their hulls creaking on the exposed mud. The INGV observatory stands as the city's guardian, tracking every tremor, every millimeter of uplift. Its instruments are the early warning system for a population that has learned to live with uncertainty. As the debate grows over what is driving the deformation, magma or superheated water, one thing is certain: the ground beneath Naples is not still. It is breathing, swelling, and the pace is quickening. 40,000 years ago, a cloud of ash blotted out the sun across Europe. Deep beneath what is now Naples, the Campi Flegrei caldera erupted with a force that dwarfs any modern disaster. In a matter of days, nearly 200 cubic kilometers of rock and gas exploded from the earth. Ash drifted as far as Russia. The landscape was buried, forests erased, rivers choked with debris. Some scientists believe this eruption altered the course of human history, linking the event to the sharp decline of Neanderthal populations across the continent. 15,000 years later, the Earth ruptured again. This time, the Neapolitan yellow tuff eruption carved the modern caldera. It is a vast 8-mile wide depression stretching from the sea to the volcanic hills. The force of that eruption left behind a landscape forever marked by violence. Today, the yellow tuff stone quarried from these ancient deposits forms the walls and streets of Naples itself, a city literally built from the bones of the volcano. Long before scientists measured seismic waves or mapped uplift, ancient Greeks and Romans sensed the power hidden beneath these fields. They called this place the entrance to the underworld. Myths told of giants buried alive, their rage shaking the ground and sending fire to the surface. The Cumaean Sibyl, a priestess of Apollo, was said to deliver prophecies from a cave at the caldera's edge, a place where the boundary between worlds felt thin. The scale of these prehistoric eruptions is almost beyond comprehension. The volume of material ejected in the first blast alone could bury all of modern Naples under a layer of ash nearly a kilometer thick. What remains is a caldera, not a cone, a wound in the earth, its edges softened by time, its depths still restless. Every tremor, every breath of steam is a reminder of what this place is capable of. The legacy of those ancient blasts lingers, shaping a region where myth and geology are impossible to separate. Inside the Naples Observatory, every tremor and every wisp of volcanic gas is scrutinized for clues. Scientists are locked in a debate, and the answer will decide how the city prepares for what comes next. On one side stands the traditional view: magma is rising beneath Campi Flegrei. The evidence is hard to ignore. Carbon dioxide emissions at the Solfatara fumarole field have surged to nearly 5,000 tons per day. Those levels usually signal magma moving upward and releasing gases as it decompresses. The ground's relentless uplift, the heat in the fumaroles, and the composition of volcanic gases all seem to fit the pattern of a restless magma chamber pressing closer to the surface. But a second theory, published in May 2025, is gaining ground. According to this model, the true engine of unrest isn't magma, but a sealed reservoir of superheated water trapped beneath Pozzuoli. Here, the caprock acts like a pressure cooker lid. It cracks, pressure escapes, then the rock seals itself again. As pressure builds, water flashes to steam, driving the ground upward and triggering earthquake swarms. The AI's seismic map supports this idea. Most of the detected quakes are shallow, clustered along new faults that cut through the caldera's upper crust, without clear signs of magma moving upward. In this view, the system is being driven by water and gas, not molten rock, at least for now. Both theories agree on one thing: the ground is under enormous stress, but the implications are starkly different. If magma is forcing its way up, the risk of a full eruption grows. If it's superheated water, sudden steam explosions become the main threat. Either way, the uncertainty keeps scientists on edge. The wrong answer could mean missed warning signs or wasted efforts. For the people living above, the stakes are measured in lives, not just scientific arguments. The debate isn't academic, it's a battle to predict what kind of disaster might unfold beneath their feet. On a June morning in 2025, the ground beneath the Gulf of Pozzuoli shuddered with a magnitude 4.6 earthquake. In that instant, a mass of fractured rock broke loose from the Punta Penata ridge and tumbled into the sea. The impact sent a pulse through the water, and sea level rose and fell in a series of rapid oscillations. The kind of miniature tsunami that had been warned about in hazard reports, but rarely witnessed in real time. Fishermen in the harbour watched as their boats rocked violently, water sloshing over the docks. For a few minutes, the coastline itself seemed to breathe, as if the land and sea were locked in a dangerous conversation. This was not a fluke. In the months that followed, researchers published new models simulating what might happen if a larger landslide crashed into the Gulf. The results were unnerving. Even a moderate collapse could send waves racing across the Bay of Naples, striking neighborhoods that have never planned for a tsunami. The study, released in January 2026, described these landslide-triggered waves as one of the least considered threats in the region, overshadowed by fears of eruption, but capable of causing chaos with little warning. Emergency planners added coastal inundation to their list of nightmare scenarios. While the sea was stirring, the land showed its own signs of unrest. At Pisciarelli, a new fumarole vent burst open, hurling fountains of steam and gas 4 to 5 meters into the air. Temperatures near the vent have climbed steadily since 2006 and now hover just below boiling. Residents in the hills have grown used to the sharp smell of sulfur drifting through their windows. The ground here is no longer just rising, it is venting, hissing, and cracking open in unexpected places. For years, the focus stayed on the risk of eruption, but the events of 2025 and 2026 forced a broader reckoning. At Campi Flegrei, danger does not come only from below, it can arrive on a wave, in a cloud of steam, or with a sudden fracture of stone. The system is heating up, and the hazards are multiplying. Pozzuoli's streets twist through neighborhoods built long before anyone imagined a supervolcano could threaten 500,000 lives. Here, daily routines unfold above a caldera that could, in the worst case, erase entire districts in minutes. The official evacuation plan exists on paper, but the reality is more daunting. The red zone alone holds around 80,000 people, with up to 500,000 living across the wider caldera, densities far beyond what emergency planners have ever tested. Narrow alleys, single-lane roads, and ancient stone stairways offer little hope for a quick escape. Hospitals and schools, already stretched thin, would struggle to shelter even a fraction of the population in a crisis. Maddalena Desario, a lifelong resident, describes the unease that lingers with every tremor. She says, "All of us know we are living in a completely seismic area. For families like hers, the fear is not abstract. It is the cracks that appear in kitchen walls after a restless night, the calls from neighbors when an earthquake rattles the city awake, the memory of sleeping in cars during the biggest swarms. Every resident knows the official advice: evacuate if the alert is raised, but few believe the roads will be clear when it matters most." The director of the Naples Observatory does not offer comfort. When asked about countermeasures, he is blunt. There are none against pyroclastic flows, clouds of ash and gas hotter than a furnace, moving faster than any car. The observatory's red phone, a direct line to Rome, is tested every day. Yet even this symbol of readiness cannot guarantee safety for a city so densely packed atop unstable ground. In Pozzuoli and the surrounding towns, the numbers are not just statistics. They are families, schools, entire communities living with the knowledge that if the volcano truly awakens, escape may be impossible. In the control room of the Naples Observatory, every monitor glows with numbers that could decide the fate of a city. Scientists debate, not just among themselves, but with the weight of 500,000 lives on their shoulders. The question is no longer just what is happening underground, but whether humans can do anything to change it. In 2025, a bold idea surfaced among Italy's top volcanologists and engineers. If the pressure building beneath Pozzuoli is driven by superheated water trapped below a self-healing caprock, could draining the groundwater relieve the threat? The concept is simple in theory. Lower the water table, reduce the pressure, and buy time. But the risks are enormous. No one has ever tried to manage a supervolcano by engineering its plumbing. Even the Campi Flegrei deep drilling project, launched years earlier, was designed only to study the underground system, not to alter it. Every possible intervention is weighed against a checklist of warning signs. The observatory's protocols read like a doomsday manual. A sudden surge in sulfur dioxide, a spike in seismicity, ground temperatures rising by degrees in a matter of days, or a new pulse of helium in the gas samples. Any one of these could mean the system is shifting from water-driven to magma-driven, a change that would render any drainage effort useless, or worse, trigger the very disaster it was meant to prevent. For now, the official stance remains clear. The INGV observatory monitors, models, and waits. Engineers stand ready with plans that may never be used. The red phone to Rome sits in the corner, silent but always within reach. The fate of Naples hangs on a series of numbers, each one a signal, each one a warning. There is no certainty, only the knowledge that the next decision could be the most important in the city's history. Right now, Naples rises by millimeters as new fractures appear beneath 500,000 lives. Whether driven by magma or steam, the system's pressure mounts, and evacuation remains untested. Campi Flegrei is not quiet, it is reorganizing. What happens next is not just a local crisis, it is a test of how we prepare for the limits of human control. The ground beneath us reminds some doors, once cracked, never fully close.